use deadly force where it wasn't really needed to begin with. It was a lesson learned, like unless you're blocking a vehicle with a car, do not get in front of a vehicle. But even at that, when you're looking at it, the second shot, I think, was well out of what I would consider use of deadly force. Totally to the side, his arms extended, and he fires that second shot. And I think that's what the investigation is going to have to look at. Which bullet that he shot, which one was the fatal one? Because if the first one missed and he took the second one and he's clear of the vehicle and there's no other agent in the front, I think it's hard to justify deadly force at that point. And I don't think, I mean, it's going to be hard to get intent, but it really looked like she was just trying to get away from him. And in FBI, we had different rules for a fleeing felon. Like there was different rules of engagement. Unless that person had, like in my own mind, if that person had just murdered someone, was trying to get away, I would probably then say, I think deadly force was justified. It was a violent act that you knew happened, that you saw, and that you were trying to then, public safety, if they ever got away, that they could do it again. So I think the statements, though, now that have been made, especially with Secretary Noem, she talked about digging out of the snow. If you look at the video, the road's clear. So obviously she's saying things that aren't even like accurate at all, and just the circumstances there. And I think it makes them look bad. You just want to say, look, we're looking into this. We're going to do an investigation. We're going to get to the bottom of it. But the fact that she's already cleared that person, it takes weeks, if not months, to get cleared in an FBI investigation for shooters, for doing that. And the FBI has allowed FBI agents to actually stand in state and local courts to get tried. A friend of mine, he was found innocent, but because of everything that was happening, they actually allowed him to be tried in a state court, and it came out the truth. And I think that gave it more credibility than if they just bring this up to the federal courts and dismiss it.
There was a lot there that was so important, Andrea, that Rob just touched on. And I watched this today many times, and a number of things has struck me, both my mind and heart at the same time. And Rob touched on a few of them. One, he was talking about his real life experience when he put himself in front of a car and the supervisor said, no, that's not how you do it. That speaks to training. That speaks to supervision. Rules of engagement. We've heard on our air throughout the day, professionals, law enforcement professionals say this is not how you engage someone in a public space in a moment like that. All of this speaks to a very severe lack of training. Men who have masks on their face, who have their names and badges covered up, acting with impunity at the direction of the Secretary of Homeland Security, the President of the United States. You have been in this space, you know it well. The definition, I want to play real quick, because this is the gaslighting part of all of this that I think Americans need to understand. This is what Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem had to say about this event.
So these spots right here are from sun damage over the years. Just a couple of drops, and then I gently massage it in circular motions. It feels so hydrating and leaves my skin looking amazing.
Still covering dark spots with makeup? What if you could actually fade them? This is the Glow 7 Turmeric Dark Spot Corrector Serum, designed to target stubborn dark spots naturally. Powered by turmeric, this lightweight serum helps reduce dark spots, even skin tone, and boost your natural glow without harsh chemicals. Gentle, effective, and suitable for all skin types, even sensitive skin. Just a few drops day and night, and watch your skin look clearer, brighter, and more confident. Stop hiding your skin. Start glowing. Shop now and enjoy 15% off on your first order. Limited time only.
What is it?
We've seen over 100 of these vehicle ramp.
Professionals, law enforcement professionals say this is not how you engage someone in a public space in a moment like that. all of this speaks to a very severe lack of training. Men who have masks on their face, who have their names and badges covered up, acting with impunity at the direction of the Secretary of Homeland Security, the President of the United States. You have been in this space, you know it well. The definition, I want to play real quick, because this is the gaslighting part of all of this that I think Americans need to understand. This is what Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem had to say about this event.
We've seen over 100 of these vehicle rammings happen in just recent weeks, and this must stop. ICE alone is facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats against all of them. In fact, the very same officer who was attacked today had previously been dragged by an anti-ICE rioter who had rammed him with a car and drug him back in June.
He would later go on and describe this as an act of domestic terrorism. How do you respond to this?
So, first of all, a U.S. citizen was murdered today, and we don't know the facts. And we don't know the facts because the Department of Homeland Security and the government is jumping to the most extreme accusation that this woman was a domestic terrorist. We don't know if she was protesting. We don't know if she was simply trying to move out of the area. I do not know what type of officers were on the ground. I do not know whether she could see their badge or what she knew of them. What I do see as a former DHS official is heavily armed men in a neighborhood. When I looked at their weapons, when I saw the sort of theater of what they were bringing into this community, you could just see the fear. And I believe that everyone who was there was probably deeply traumatized by this incident, by this loss of life. But as a former DHS official, ICE does have a mission. It is supposed to keep Americans safe. But what I am seeing from these operations, there is an announcement, a political announcement that they were going into Minneapolis. They tweeted, good morning, Minneapolis. And that is targeting a city for no purpose other than to do a show of force. And when you do a show of force and you have too many officers in one area without a specific target, you're going to have chaos and you're going to have loss of life. This is the thing I have feared all year, is that people, bystanders, innocent people, are just trying to navigate and get out of the space of this theater. And so this is not how law enforcement is done. And I hear Secretary Noem, if she is worried about ICE officers' safety, she will rein this in. She will go back to how you normally do law enforcement.
They say she's need to be brought up on impeachment as well.
I'm paying it off over time. No fees, no interest.
ICE is the domestic terrorist. I agree.
You know what else has no interest? Me.
You can pay it.
This is absolutely crazy. Absolutely. Y'all, please support the platform. Please hit the like button, super chat, super sticker, Cash App. Support the platform. Thank you. Okay, that one. We saw that one. Don't take the bait. Let's talk about, did I get another video? Hold on. Let's talk about Putin. No. Bibi Netanyahu. Let's talk about his judge that was presiding over his case that Trump keeps asking for a pardon for. How about he came up dead? Huh? How that happen? What's going on? Did I even pull that up? Hold on. Bibi Netanyahu, man, if they ain't doing some tricky shit. If they ain't doing some tricky. I don't know. I don't know this lady. I've never. Hold on. Y'all get the likes up. Benjamin Netanyahu, judge. Is not a lie. What's going on? I'm trying to make sure I get this corruption trial killed. Why they say he lured Netanyahu, lured Trump into war with Iran? Oh yeah. I want to talk about the judge. And then we're going to talk about y'all remember when they was going to Israel? They was having that peace deal, peace treaty, whatever that and those guys that was coming over from Qatar, Egypt, and there was a wreck, and there was guys who didn't agree, right? It was a whole wreck. Let me see if this one gonna talk.
A judge overseeing Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption case is dead.
Netanya.
Israel says it was a traffic accident.
Bibi Netanya. I like that. Sly, hey. Ice. You hear that? Bibi Netanya. I like that better than not gonna sue me. ICE are not law enforcement. They're more like bounty hunters. Yeah, more like the K and the KKK. Yeah, absolutely. Y'all remember those three guys that was coming to the summit, to that peace treaty, and they got killed. Somebody ran them over, and they never talked about it again. Y'all remember that? Yes, sure it is. Come on, play.
A judge overseeing Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption case is dead. Israel says it was a traffic accident. A car emerging from nowhere. A fatal crash on the highway. But the timing is explosive. The maneuver unusual. The silence loud. Was this just tragedy? Or something Israel isn't...
Look at this. I don't know if I can show this. I don't know if I can show this. I can't. Because if this is all that's left, then no. Let's see. If this is all that's left, then I'm not sure I can show it. Is that a motorcycle helmet? Was he on a motorcycle? I hope y'all got that. Go.
Overseeing Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption case.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
Israel says it was a traffic accident. A car emerging from nowhere. A fatal crash on a highway.
From nowhere.
But the timing is explosive. The maneuver unusual. The silence loud. Was this just tragedy? Or something Israel isn't ready to confront yet?
Netanyahu. Suspicious.
What appears, on paper, to be a traffic accident is already fueling darker speculation inside Israel's legal and political circles. A senior Israeli judge tied to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption case died on January 4th when a vehicle...
Boy, I like how he said Netanyahu.
Israel's legal and political circles. A senior Israeli judge tied to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption case died on January 4th when a vehicle drove off-road, entered a major highway and slammed into his motorcycle. According to the Israel police, Benny Sagi died at the scene after the collision on Route 6 in southern Israel. Police say Sagi was riding his motorcycle when a car suddenly joined the highway near Kibbutz Kfar Menachem, east of Ashdod. Emergency responders described the scene as shocking. Medics said the judge suffered fatal injuries and showed no signs of life upon arrival. But it is the manner of the crash that has triggered questions. Investigators say the vehicle was not travelling on the road. It entered the highway from off-road terrain. An unusual and unexplained
you like
maneuver
not
now
gonna
under
sue you?
full investigation.
Sue you.
Traffic accident units from Kiryat Maliki are examining
what did he say?
Mechanical failure or other factors were involved. Officially, there is no suggestion of foul play. Unofficially, the timing has raised eyebrows. Sagi was a prominent judicial figure, appointed acting president of the Beersheba District Court in June 2024 and made permanent president in April last year. His court has handled cases connected to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption trial, placing him within one of Israel's most politically charged legal battles. As tributes poured in, the language underscored his stature and, for some, the magnitude of the loss. President Isaac Herzog said he was shocked and pained, calling Sagi a brilliant, sharp-minded jurist.
You can look at that picture right there and tell he not buying it. He's saying, oh my God. Oh my God. They killed the judge. Oh my God. And he's saying, we told him to throw the case. He didn't listen. We handled it our own way. He's saying, oh my God. Oh, my hair just fell out at the top. I looked in the mirror and it was gone. Oh my God. What am I going to do? Her just left. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Y'all can tell he nervous. He nervous. Netanyahu, what you gonna do? Why is not? And then you got folk over here and
shocked and pained, calling Sagi a brilliant and sharp-minded jurist.
Sagi was a brilliant and sharp-minded jurist, a tremendous judge who combined immense professional knowledge with exceptional integrity. I was constantly impressed from afar by the rare blend he embodied. A judge of stature and authority with a moving personal story, who was known as a man of values, humble and kind-hearted, who always saw the person standing before him and strove for peace and mediation.
Meanwhile, Israeli Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana added context from years past, saying,
I came to know Sagi when I interned at the Central District Attorney's Office about 20 years ago, when he was a prosecutor. He was a straightforward and honest man, highly knowledgeable in criminal law, with a rare ability to find paths of compromise and agreement.
Police insist the investigation is ongoing. No conclusions have been reached. But in a country where law, politics, and power collide daily, some are already asking quietly whether this was merely a tragic accident or something far less random.
War criminal.
For now, Israel is left with questions.
That's Bibi Netanyahu's a war criminal,
whose findings may determine whether this story ends as a crash or becomes something much more.
They're sending signals. They're sending warnings. They're sending warnings. You understand? They are sending warnings. This is intimidation. Intimidation. You gonna do what I say? Yeah. Are we gonna? Oh, my battery low. Are we going to remove you? Oh Lord, where my charger? Hold on, y'all. I'm looking for my charger. Yeah. He didn't want to play ball. Cricket ball. Oh, there you go. Yeah, he didn't want to play cricket ball. Or he didn't take bribes. Yep. Just like in Minnesota. They've been in the news too much. I guess when they did their investigation, because that lady had already said that they had investigated it before and went through them daycares and shit, and there were kids still there. So that didn't work with that. Now they had a PPS fraud, but that's been on for a couple of years. Yeah. So then they created another scene, but he had already said, we want him, we want y'all out of here, killing the judge. I'm gonna see what he's
in several cases.
A senior Israeli judge said to be involved in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption case was killed after a vehicle driving off a road.
What happened to the guy?
Major highway and then plowed into his motorcycle. The Judge Benny Sagi, the president of the guy? District Court, died at the scene following the collision on Route 6 in southern Israel on Sunday.
And today Tuesday.
Launched into the circumstances of this crash.
What happened to the guy?
According to the Israeli Emergency Medical Service, Magen David Adom, the medics and the paramedics who arrived at the site found Sagi with multiple injuries and no signs of life. The paramedics have described the incident as shocking, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Over the past year and a half, Sagi had served as president of the Beersheba District Court, having arrived from Tel Aviv District Court. His funeral took place on Monday. The President Isaac Herzog has said that he was shocked and pained by the loss, praising Sagi as a brilliant jurist known for his integrity and professionalism. The Supreme Court President Isaac Ahmed said that the judiciary was dismayed by the tragedy, describing Sagi as a man with a huge heart who was deeply respected by colleagues. Now, Sagi was presiding over the
Why are we not hearing about the person who hit him? What about him?
Pained by the loss, praising Sagi as a brilliant jurist known for his integrity and professionalism. The Supreme Court President Isaac Ahmed said that the judiciary was dismayed by the tragedy, describing Sagi as a man with a huge heart who was deeply respected by colleagues. Now, Sagi was presiding over the Netanyahu corruption case. In December last year, Netanyahu took the stand for the first time since asking the president for a pardon in his long-running corruption trial. Netanyahu was indicted in 2019 on charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust, all of which Netanyahu has denied. The trial began in 2020 and involves 3 criminal cases, and Netanyahu's lawyers have requested for a pardon from President Isaac Herzog, arguing that frequent court hearings impact his ability to govern and that a pardon will serve the national interest. They've also maintained that the president has the authority to grant it on the grounds of public interest.
And y'all know everything with Trump and the cabinets and the all of that is pro-Israel, pro-B. They BB Netanyahu. He probably got out the car and walked off like a gangster. But they're not even mentioning him. Mission accomplished. So, yeah, I'm finna go on, and now we're gonna talk about more trouble that Trump is getting the U.S. into. I'm just like, Lord have mercy. What is happening? How many wars is this fucker gonna start? Now we snuggling.
Now look, there are moments in American foreign policy that don't make big.
I mean, we got to listen to Bubba too. I had said the other day I wanted to hear from Clinton, and then so we listened to him the other day. We just can't ask him nothing about Trump, you know. Yeah, we got to just listen. We can't ask him nothing. You know, how many times did you let Trump, the dump, you know, play with your pickle? No questions. He said, just listen. About the more trouble that this fool is getting us into. Y'all want to hit the like button now? Y'all want to go on double tap? Oh, y'all know when I take too long. When it's been sitting too long, it's going to make me go out and come back in. He said, I want to have a grand entry, Auntie Fee. Don't just handle me any kind of way, because I let him suck Bill Pickle.
Now look, there are moments in American foreign policy that don't make big headlines right away, but they tell you something important about how we're choosing to use power in the world. And I want to talk to you today about one of those moments, something that happened just this morning in the North Atlantic Ocean.
You know, y'all kill me. He already telling us that ain't nobody going and discuss this because, you know, so that means we some of the first that's listening to it. Now double tap the face of your screen and get the likes up. Why I gotta go through this with y'all? Y'all want me to handle y'all rough, nice, and slow. Cause we're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Yeah, I don't want to be nice and slow. I want y'all to double tap the face of your screen. Hey, soulful meaning. Nuh-uh, soulful mean. Y'all, come on, double tap the face of your screen or hit those three dots at the top right corner and get the likes up. We got to talk to Bubba. Bubba got to talk to us. What you say? Keep us ahead of, baby. We gotta be ahead of the game. So when they come back telling us stuff, we already know. So you can't miss days with Auntie Fee. Hey, Miss Tom. Just did. Thank you. Can't miss days, baby, because y'all come back days later be telling me, oh, Auntie Fee, did you hear? They smuggled Russia. Child, we talked about that a couple days ago. You not catching up? You need to watch the replay? Come on, hit the three dots at the top right. Let's go. Here, Bubba. Come on, Bubba.
Now look, there are moments in American foreign policy that don't make big headlines right away, but they tell you something important about how we're choosing to use power in the world. And I want to talk to you today about one of those moments, something that happened just this morning in the North Atlantic Ocean that most people are going to miss, but that carries real consequences for our country and for the international system we've spent decades trying to build.
Sparkling.
Early this morning, the United States Coast Guard seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker called the Marinera. You might also hear it.
So now we smuggling oil from Russia. What the fuck is going on, y'all?
United States Coast Guard seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker called the Marinera. You might also hear it called by its old name, the Bellowin, somewhere between Iceland and Scotland. Now, on the surface, this looks like straightforward sanctions enforcement. The vessel was carrying Venezuelan oil, violating American sanctions, and we tracked it across the Atlantic for weeks before boarding it. The administration says this is about cracking down on oil smugglers on the shadow fleets that Russia, Venezuela, and Iran use to evade international pressure. And we'll come back to all of that, the legal questions, the shadow fleet operations, what this means for our relationship with Russia. But here's what caught my attention and why I think this matters more than people realize. Russia has
It was
already
uploaded
condemned
today.
this seizure as a violation of international maritime law. Their transport ministry is citing the
It was what?
1,982. Russia has already condemned this seizure as a violation of international maritime law. Their transport ministry is citing the 1,982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, saying no state has the right to use force against properly registered vessels. Some Russian lawmakers are calling it piracy. Now that might sound like typical Russian propaganda, and Lord knows they violated enough international law themselves in Ukraine. But here's the thing, when America acts in the world, we've got to ask ourselves not just whether we have the power to do something, but whether we have the legitimacy, whether we're building coalitions or going it alone, and whether we're strengthening the rules-based international order or weakening it. Because how we answer those questions will determine what kind of world we're creating. Let me tell you something about how sanctions actually work. Because this shadow fleet business, it's more important than most people understand. And it goes to the heart of how we try to influence bad actors without going to war. When I was president, we used economic sanctions as a tool. We sanctioned countries and individuals who threatened our interests, who violated human rights, who destabilized regions. But here's the key. Sanctions only work when they're enforced consistently, when you've got international buy-in, and when there's a clear legal framework that other nations respect. Otherwise, you're just shouting into the wind. Now, what we're dealing with here is what they call a ghost fleet or shadow fleet, and it's basically a maritime shell game. These are all tankers that operate in the shadows of the international shipping system. They turn off their tracking transponders, they change their names every few months, they re-register under different flags, sometimes Liberia, sometimes Panama, now apparently Russia. They exist for one purpose, to move oil for sanctioned countries like Venezuela, Iran, and Russia without getting caught. The Bella one, that's what this vessel used to be called, was sanctioned by the United States back in 2024. And not for small potatoes either. American intelligence said this ship was carrying black market Iranian oil on behalf of some pretty bad actors. The Quds Force, Hezbollah, the Houthis. We're talking about a vessel with documented ties to organizations that destabilize the Middle East and threaten American allies. So what happened? The ship got a new paint job, a new name Marinera, and got freshly registered under the Russian flag. Suddenly it's back in business, moving Venezuelan oil across the Atlantic, protected by Russian naval assets. That's the game. That's how these operations work. Now here's where it gets complicated from a policy standpoint. Yes, we need to enforce sanctions. Yes, these shadow fleets undermine legitimate economic pressure. But the question isn't whether we should stop them. It's how we stop them in a way that's legal, that's coordinated with allies, and that doesn't create bigger problems down the road. Because we got to remember, when we act unilaterally, when we seize vessels without clear international backing, we set precedents that other countries can use against us. All right, let me walk you through exactly what happened here, because the facts matter, and there are some details that raise important questions about how this operation went down. The United States Coast Guard Cutter Monroe, that's one of our largest and most capable cutters, intercepted and boarded the Marinera in international waters between Iceland and Scotland earlier today, January 7th, 2026. According to the U.S. European Command, they seized the vessel for violations of American sanctions on Venezuelan oil. Now, this wasn't a surprise operation. Our forces had been tracking this tanker across the Atlantic Ocean for weeks, watching its movements, waiting for the right moment. And here's where it gets interesting. Russia knew we were coming. Just yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Russia had dispatched a submarine and other naval assets to escort this very tanker. Think about that for a moment. Russian submarines in the Atlantic shadowing a sanctioned oil vessel, clearly anticipating that we might try to seize it. And we did it anyway with British support. The United Kingdom provided assistance for this operation, which is significant because it shows at least some Allied coordination. But the Marinera wasn't the only target. The Trump administration also seized a second oil tanker in related operations, part of what they're calling a broader effort to choke off Venezuelan oil exports and pressure the Maduro regime. Now, here's where the diplomatic situation gets tense. There are Russian crew members aboard the Marinera. Russia's foreign ministry has already demanded their immediate return and is insisting on what they call humane treatment of these nationals. Russia's transport ministry released a statement condemning the seizure, and I'm going to quote this because it's important. In accordance with the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, no state has the right to use force against vessels that are properly registered under the flag of a state. Some Russian lawmakers went further, calling this operation outright piracy. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is Russia we're talking about, the same country that invaded Ukraine in violation of every principle of international law. The hypocrisy is pretty rich, but here's what concerns me. They're making a legal argument that has some international standing, and we need to have a clear answer to it. Now, here's where I want to be careful, because I think enforcing sanctions against regimes like Venezuela, Russia, and Iran is legitimate. When dictators use oil revenues to oppress their people, to fund terrorist organizations, to undermine democratic neighbors, we have a responsibility to use economic tools to push back. I did it. Every president does it, and sometimes that means taking bold action. But we've got to remember that how we do things matters as much as what we do. And when I look at this operation, I've got some serious questions about the decision-making process here. First question, what's our legal basis under international maritime law for seizing a Russian flag vessel in international waters? Now, we've got domestic legal authority through our sanctions regime, no question about that. But the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which Russia is citing, establishes rules about when you can board and seize vessels flying another nation's flag. Did we consult with international legal experts? Did we build a case that would stand up in international courts? Because if we're just relying on American law applied extraterritorially, that's a harder sell to the rest of the world. Second question, beyond Britain, where's the international coalition? When I dealt with Iraq in the 1,990 seconds, when we enforced no-fly zones and sanctions, we worked through the United Nations, we built consensus, we made sure other nations understood and supported what we were doing. I don't see that here. I see a unilateral American action with one ally helping out, and that concerns me, because when you act alone, you bear all the consequences alone. Third question, what's the strategic end game? Is this about pressuring Venezuela? Is it about confronting Russia? Is it about both? Because those are very different strategies with very different implications. The Trump administration is simultaneously talking about seizing Venezuelan oil, making demands of the Maduro government, and now confronting Russian naval assets in the Atlantic. That's a lot of fronts to be operating on at once. Let me tell you something I learned in 8 years as president. Foreign policy isn't about looking tough. It's about advancing American interests through smart, sustained engagement. It's about building coalitions so that when you do have to act, the world understands why and supports what you're doing. And right now, I'm not seeing that kind of strategic thinking. What I'm seeing looks more like reactive decision-making, strong action without sufficient diplomatic preparation. Now, we need to talk about something that doesn't get enough attention in our political discourse these days. the architecture of international order, and what happens when major powers start bending or breaking the rules that hold it together. Russia's transport ministry cited the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea in condemning this seizure. And I've got to tell you, there's a bitter irony here. This is the same Russia that's been violating international law in Ukraine for years now, invading a sovereign nation, committing war crimes, thumbing its nose at every principle of territorial integrity and human rights. So when Vladimir Putin's government lectures anyone about respecting international conventions, you've got every right to be skeptical. But here's what troubles me, and this is important. Just because Russia's being hypocritical doesn't mean they're wrong about the principle. Under what legal authority does the United States seize a Russian flagged vessel in international waters based solely on American domestic sanctions law? That's a real question, and it deserves a real answer. When I was president, we spent enormous energy building and strengthening international legal frameworks. We worked through the United Nations, through international courts, through treaty obligations. Why? Because we understood something fundamental. America is most powerful when our actions have legitimacy, when other nations see us operating within a rules-based system rather than just imposing our will through raw force. Let me put it plainly, if we can seize Russian vessels in international waters because they're violating our sanctions, what's to stop China from seizing American vessels they claim are violating their interests? What's to stop any powerful nation from deciding that international waters are subject to their domestic legal jurisdiction? We're setting a precedent here, and precedents have consequences. And there's also the question of escalation. Russia sent submarines to escort this tanker. We seized it anyway. What happens next time? Do we have a naval confrontation in the Atlantic? Do Russian submarines start shadowing American commercial vessels? At what point does this economic enforcement action turn into something more dangerous? And let's talk about the impact on international shipping and commerce. The global economy depends on predictable rules about maritime trade. When major powers start seizing each other's vessels based on unilateral decisions, that creates uncertainty. Insurance costs go up, shipping routes change, and the whole system becomes less stable.